Hi, I'm Janet Demeter, and I'm coming to you first and foremost as a mom. It's Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I, like thousands of other parents around the country, have experienced the diagnosis of their child with cancer. And the reason why it's so important to have awareness for this month and to support our children by wearing a gold ribbon and asking city officials to have buildings go gold is because less than 4% of our government resources for cancer research benefit our children. This has been the case for a very long time, and all childhood cancer legislation that had some sort of provision in it to analyze the flow of funds within NCI to determine why this was so has died. What we have left is excellent. We need to support it, so call your reps and have them support the STAR Act, the RACE Act. All of these help in some way our kids with cancer. But there's only one bill, it's called HRS 586, that asks for more consideration for the dying, those kids certain to die, and years of life lost. Meaning with the brain tumor that my son had, called DIPG, there are 20,000 years of life lost every year. And this has been going on for 50 years. And the same excuse is used over and over again. The numbers aren't great enough for investors. There aren't enough of them to matter. There aren't enough of them for us to invest in the research funding. Can you imagine as a parent having that happen? You get this deadly prognosis, and you ask, why has there been no research activity in so long? And that's what you get? Well, I'm sorry. The numbers don't warrant the research investment. And our country says it wants to cure cancer. The Moonshot Initiative does not address the 4% either. We all know medical industry is that. It's business first. But at least with our government funds, we need to be protecting our children's lives that really do matter. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I'm going to read to you a little bit of a letter that I've written to President Obama, because he made a 2016 proclamation for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, which was very heartfelt, and he acknowledged the bravery of our kids. But the accomplishments that he pointed to, I really felt were kind of a whitewash of the situation. The 4% is never addressed. We never actually see more funding going to this research. Parents are funding research right now, so please support in your local area whatever pediatric cancer research and awareness group you have. The large ones like ACS and LLS use children in their advertising, but they give even less of their research budget to pediatrics. And so, I write to President Obama that I've written to you a few times over the last 3 years about diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, or DIPG, and the lack of research funding for the deadliest pediatric cancer. Currently, almost all DIPG research is funded by organizations initiated by bereaved parents or families. When my son was diagnosed in 2011, DIPG support organizations were not numerous like today with the advent of social media. Now they're more visible, despite the fact that it is an isolating experience to have the diagnosis, but with new pages daily for DIPG children on Facebook, as well as daily deaths. The lack of research funding is always explained by numbers, which determine in whatever relative sense the value of their lives, such that on top of a terminal diagnosis, we learn that their lives are not numerous enough to warrant the research to save them. I'm just a mom who lost her son to DIPG. I'm not a legal expert or savant, but I do have a deep respect for the Constitution of the United States. And I've heard it said numerous times that it's our duty as citizens to speak out when we see the basic principles of this Constitution and our inalienable rights therein compromised for lesser principles. In this case, we are told there are no solutions for our children in over 50 years of clinical observation because their numbers don't warrant research investment. And so we must accept not only a terminal diagnosis, but watch in utter helplessness our children die, which they experience in full cognitive awareness until respiration fails. Because to the system, their lives don't matter. And of course they do, and to the tune of tens of thousands now in our country alone, and those are big numbers. Their sphere of influence, their total sphere of influence is astronomical. And I'm reading this to you because I have to watch this now, every day. There are hundreds of parents scattered around the country who are having to watch their child. And this is just DIPG, which is one pediatric cancer. There are 160 varieties at least. But this one is particularly heinous. And most oncologists agree that if we focused on cancers like this, we'd probably cure cancer. But do we do it? Our country says with the Moonshot Initiative, which doesn't, as I said, it doesn't address the 4% issue. It just looks for more private sector incentives. If they agree that if we focused on this, we would probably cure cancer. I encourage you to read this letter in its entirety. It's going to CNN, it's going to the New York Times, it's going to the Washington Post, it's going to several Canadian publications, which tend to actually be more responsive, sorry to say. But their advocacy programs are excellent in that country as well. Please read it at jacksangels.org under the news blog page. It's under Letter to the President. You can't miss it. It has with it also a full report of not only medical but also on a personal scale the extent of devastation that just this one pediatric cancer is allowed to continue to do year after. We could do something, but we keep choosing not to. We can't do anything about car accidents or crashes or acts of God or natural disasters, but this is something we could do something about. And if we say we really want to cure cancer, it's absolutely hypocritical that we're not trying to save our children first. We're not putting lives first, and we're not putting years of life lost first. Also look at HRES 586 at jacksangels.org. It's the only piece, it's an awareness resolution. It doesn't allocate funds, it's not political, but it asks for more consideration with the dying and with children with NCI, which is National Cancer Institute research grants for research. Because right now they're not factors for consideration. Not if 3.84% is all we're giving to pediatric cancer. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Please wear gold for our kids this September. I'm Janet Demeter with Jack's Angels Foundation for Pediatric Brain Tumor Awareness and Support and Advocacy for Children with Cancer. Also host of Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on toginet.com Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Check us out. Thanks for listening.